What's up, Duke fans? Welcome to the Devil's Den podcast. I'm your host, Josh Smith, joined by my co-host, Raul and Shu. We got Jordan Mann with us. Figured we would bring him in a little bit. It's been a little bit, Jordan, so happy to see you, man. We're recording this after Duke beat Stanford 80-50. So we're going to recap a little bit of this West Coast trip. We did a reaction to the Cal game, but going to probably wrap some of that into this as well. I think, fellas, first off, we won't bury the lead too much. We're going to talk about Cam Boozer, but we should probably start with this game. We're talking about the defense a little bit. Duke found themselves a little bit out there on the West Coast, fellas. I mean, it's been talked about. It's been well-versed. Duke kind of hit the wall a little bit, starting probably with the Lipscomb kind of Texas Tech area. Is the defense just kind of fell off a cliff there for a little bit. Duke tried to find itself offensively. Starting to really click here a little bit, though. So let's start there. Jordan, I know you just dropped your video talking about the defense against Stanford. What stands out to you specifically? I mean, we see Dame Sarr, we see Malik Brown getting more minutes, getting kind of into the lineup in a more vocal, real way. But outside of just throwing those guys in there, what stands out to you as Duke kind of reclaiming that defensive identity?
Honestly, it really is it's Dame Sarr. Like, he is so disruptive against the number one options. Like, we saw it with Ryan Conwell in Louisville in the second half. He was 3 for 8, 4 from 3 or 3 turnovers in the second half, guarded by Dame. Saw what he did against Day Ames, who was averaging 17 points a game for Cal. He had 0 points at halftime, finished the game 3 of 11 with 2 turnovers. And then Becco Corey, he just had like 34 points and 9 assists to 1 turnover against UNC. Probably the most efficient game in college basketball. Now here comes Duke. Dame Sarr holds him to 9 points on 3 of 9, 1 of 5 from 3 with 4 turnovers. So it's like as good as Duke's. And my point is, Dame is setting the tone and setting the bar, and then his teammates are just kind of contagious. They're kind of just playing better off ball because Dame is just eliminating the best player, at least for one half of the game. So it's allowing the other 4 guys to kind of just play 4-on-4 against the people that are not accustomed to trying to go get a bucket. And so that's really, you're seeing the comfortability that Duke is doing on the defensive side, led by Dame Sarr.
Yeah, and for fellas, for y'all, I mean, like, we've talked about it at this point. Has Dame kind of reclaimed the starting spot for you all? I mean, do you just throw him back in there? I mean, it seems like that's where we're at. I mean, the offense is still the offense. It's not like he's doing anything really different or more. But the defense is just at a level now where it's really hard to take him off the floor. Is that your starter going forward for you all, Raul? Shoot.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is. I think it helps that he seems to be making a little bit better decisions lately. We talked about this a couple games ago. I forget what game it was, but he had a couple, potential fast break opportunities that he backed back out. I mean, he's still prone to a few little moments. Against Cal, he had that one possession where he tried to take it 1-on-4. He kept the ball down way too low, too long. Yeah. But I think he's playing a little bit more within himself offensively, and then just, what he provides defensively. And especially like if what you're going to get out of Hamenya is like what you got out of him versus Stanford, where frankly, he didn't really have an impact. He badly missed a couple corner threes, didn't seem to do much else that I saw. Maybe if I go back and watch it again, I would notice more. But if that's the way Hamenya is going to play, and if he's going to be up and down with Sarr, at least you're getting the defensive impact every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because the energy level is insane on that end too. Go ahead, Stu.
Well, for me, I mean, this is what we brought him in for, right? Like, originally we had Cedric Coward. Would have loved to have seen that, come to fruition, but water on the bridge. But we brought Dame in, as that replacement, and I think brought him in to be the starter, to be that defensive menace that he has been being. So, as Jordan pointed out, I mean, Abuka had 36 against Carolina, even more efficient than Jordan imagined that he was. Yeah. And Dame just completely took him out of his game. I thought what we were doing, trying to get the ball out of his hands, was obviously the right play, make somebody else beat you. The Dent Smith kid had a good game, but what was it? Agarwal, that had a career high against Carolina, had 20 against them, 6 threes. He made 1 3 against us. So we did a great job of just taking the ball out of Ibuka's hands and making somebody else beat us, and obviously to hold them to 50 points, after they just scored 95 on Wednesday night. I think it was 0.781 points per possession, which is the lowest that I can remember that we've held somebody to in a while. So good to see.
Yeah.
I mean, and even Dent Smith, like a lot of his points were late, if I remember correctly, like just kind of when the game was already out of reach. We were up 20 at that point, and he was, to be frank, cooking Caleb Foster in the ball screen a little bit there. But again, how locked in were the guys at that point? When you go up 20, I think,
and he was having to take some deep shots.
Yeah,
too,
they were difficult.
He was getting some decent looks, but we were making him take, if you're going to upright from 28 feet, then okay, sure, go for it. I think something that I mentioned, I don't know if it was the last pod, fellas, or the one before, was like the idea that the easiest path for Duke to really kind of hit its ceiling and be this elite version of itself is for Cam Boozer to be an elite two-way guy. We've seen the offense, it's just historic what he's doing. I thought, we've said this a couple of times now, I thought the Stanford game was by far his best defensive game. I thought he was elite defensively. I thought he was finishing possession. Something that I've talked about is for him and Caden is they have a tendency to they're locked in on their initial defensive set, if it's them in the action, but once it diverts, sometimes they get lost, sometimes they get a little lazy on finishing the possession. I thought Cam was phenomenal here, man. I thought the verticality was good. He was commanding the back line. He was switching, he was rotating. Jordan, for you, man, has Cam is it possible for Cam to be appreciated at the level that he probably should be? Following a Cooper flag, following that last season. I think this team is getting a lot of of last year fatigue of they have to be so perfect to offset any potential scenario or situation that could happen. Last year sucked. We get it. But this guy's a unicorn too, man. I know he's not a unicorn in terms of what he looks like, but it seems like there's no way for him to even be the number one pick. He's already shoehorned at 3, and he's putting together one of the best seasons we've ever seen. Talk to me a little bit about Cam, man. He continues to impress.
Yeah, look, what he does offensively is crazy. I mean, he's so efficient, and defensively, he just, unfortunately for him, for the defense side of the ball, he has his dad's traits. He is Carlos Boozer's son. He was never the fastest guy on the quickest feet. But against Stanford, he held his own. And granted, Stanford's front court, is a little slower. But that's what you want to see with Cam Boozer defensively is, hey, when you play an inferior team that talent-wise, we need you to see you dominate against those guys. And he did. He had 3 steals and a block on the defensive end to go along with his 30 points. And I do feel like he's underappreciated. I feel like, and I don't care much about draft stock talk I see on my timeline. It feels like everybody makes a new mock draft every Monday. I feel like 14.0 of mock drafts, and now Cam Boozer, he's not quick enough. The narrative with him is kind of how Con Knipple was going into the draft last year. It's his foot speed, he's too slow. His pace is too slow for the NBA. It's well, he can get buckets at his speed, and that's kind of how Cam Boozer is. Yeah, he's not going to jump out of the gym. He might be slower than you want, but he gets buckets for who he is. He's won everywhere he's ever been, and now he's the best player on a team that's 16 or 17-1, should be undefeated. So he's been just productive everywhere he's ever been. So people that like to throw stones at his glass house for saying that he can't play that well defensively or whatever offensively around the rim, he's gotten better at. He's 2 for 3 from 3 in this game. He can shoot the jumper too. And so I feel like he is weirdly underrated. I feel like he gets talked about nationally, but when it comes to his overall potential, I guess as a player for the next level, I'm they're giving him a ceiling that doesn't exist. I feel like he is really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, to me, man, it's we're getting a guy that's putting up 30 and 14, and it's oh yeah, this is just kind of what he does. This 3rd time he's done it. And it's it's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's just because we just had Cooper coming in here. Obviously, Duke has had a lot of talent coming through. The college landscape is good. Darren Peterson is great. DeBonce is great. I get it. But this guy's putting up some and he has carried the weight for this Duke team like every single night. Just shows up like, got the lunch pail, got the bucket out, put the hard hat on, just goes to work. Yeah, I mean,
one thing I wonder about, do you think that he takes into account like the analytics, because we don't see him taking a lot of mid-range shots? He shoots threes and at the basket. That's about it.
That's just Duke in general, though, right? I mean, that's just what John's going to do. Like that, he's not.
We saw Coop. Coop had that little pull up, and Con would do it, and Proctor every once in a while.
That's fair. That's fair.
I would say they have like a fluidity within them.
Yeah.
So like it's natural, where Cam tried those a couple times or a few times this year, and I'm like, that needs to get out of that bag immediately. I think like one hit, like backboard strong, he airballed a couple where it was kind of like a 12-footer where he created separation on a fadeaway, but he was short on it. And I'm like, maybe that's something you work on in the summer as you prep for the league. But I like that he's very round the rim or three-pointers. And, maybe you can develop that game. Al Horford was a post player, and all of a sudden now he's a corner three specialist, like year 17 in the league. So he can develop a mid-range shot, I'm sure. But Boozer, I like that he's very efficient at what he does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he knows where the bread's buttered, man. Like I think the 1-2 that he did shoot, like the mid range that he did shoot against Stanford was like really short. I mean, it was a late shot clock, but it was like really short.
I don't think he's made any of those this year. Actually,
that part's not like that. That's where the Paolo comparison kind of falls short. Is Paolo does have just much more kind of guard fluidity, handles, skills. Where
but
Cam's just not quite that. Yeah,
I think the league is going to like Cam's shot selection a little bit more. I mean, that's been a constant talking point with Paolo, right? He's getting a lot of flack, especially this year, which is all the tough fadeaway mid-range shots he's taking. So Cam has a more modern game in a way.
Yeah. Something else we should talk about too is, I mentioned it a little bit, but Jordan, I'm curious your thoughts is, we've seen, we really saw it last year of just this methodical kind of approach that Jon took to the season and how we like integrated different stuff and how they evolved. We've seen too, like we talked a lot about the defense, but we've seen on the offensive end that Duke has really started to figure out ways to get Cam the ball without him having to just like catch, look over that left shoulder and kind of read and figure it out. Now we still use that. It's still kind of like, hey, you muck it up, you dummy us up, we'll go to it. But I've been really impressed, man, that like a lot of the spacing, a lot of the stuff, maybe that's because Malik's playing a little bit more recently, but a lot of high lows, a lot of kind of like quick into the post, or like Cam gets it, and credit to Cam, he's catching and like reacting at an elite level. But talk a little bit about that, like where offensively, where have you seen kind of Duke start to grow, and like what's left there for you? Like where do you want to see Duke kind of like, hey, reach out and grab this fruit, like reach out and like here's the next rung to take?
Yeah, I like that the high-low game a lot. They did that against Florida State. That was undefeated. Like they just that's where Pat Gongba and Malik Brown are so good. And even like Haminia, when he's on the floor, he's a really good facilitator for his size. I think it's like the most underrated part of his game. He's a pretty good passer. But the Florida State game in particular, where Duke just couldn't get stops, they were so good at flooding everybody up and making Cam Boozer somehow be one-on-one down low, and Pat Gongba or Malik Brown was at the top of the key. And even the guards, I mean, it could have been a tough pass, but they're just going over the top every time. And Cam was eating. And then sometimes Cam is such a good passer that Pat Gongba benefited from the high-low action. And that's just kind of like been a nice thing to see recently, the high-low, when people are really hard denying him initially on the post. It's kind of like, hey, swing it so he can reposition and bury his guy that's fronting him so hard, and everybody else lifts from the corners to the wings, and you get that action. And then honestly, another reason that he's been going off or continues to get shots is Isaiah Evans is playing at an All-ACC, first-team All-ACC level right now since conference play has started. And that's only going to make Cameron Boozer's life easier, as Isaiah Evans is coming off these DHOs with Malik Brown, these pin downs from Malik Brown. People are going to see him like, oh, crap, there's Isaiah. And then Cam Boozer is the beneficiary from that. And last thing for that is Duke runs that Isaiah and Cam Boozer set where Isaiah's setting a slip screen essentially for Cam and flaring out, and then he throws it to Isaiah, hits the three. Did it against Florida for the game winner. Foul on 3 against Michigan State that basically clinched the game before Caleb's 3. Hit that same 3 against Kansas going into halftime, and then going in the first half, and then the first half against SMU, Cam Boozer got that poster dunk because instead of flaring that screen like Isaiah does, he actually set the screen, and SMU wasn't ready for it, which led Cam to go straight downhill and flush on the defender. And that simple action with two of the better scorers in the ACC and in the country is undefeated for Duke. And so when you have two cheat codes to run a simple set, you're getting a three or a dunk. That's beautiful basketball. That's why Scheyer, it's easy to like give Scheyer crap saying that he coaches at Duke, but that's what makes him so good is simplicity works. And he does that so much better than people give him credit for.
Yeah. I think Isaiah called that the pick your poison play after the Florida game. I mean, it's tough to defend because you stay home with Boozer where you're giving one of the best 3-point shooters in the nation, a good look, and he sets that screen and you pay attention to Isaiah, then Cam gets downhill. And once Cam gets going to his right hand, I mean, it's tough to stop him.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. Like if you're going to try to sell out and take that away, like against Stanford. Now we haven't shot the ball from three like great recently. But we only shot 10 threes against Stanford, right? Like we don't shoot a bunch. We're just punishing you inside. And, and we saw Carolina do that to them too. Like Carolina crushed them inside. They just couldn't stop them. Like they just don't have anything to stop them. And maybe we can just poke fun about that a little bit, fellas. I mean, a lot was said. And shouts to Wake as being the only other team to do the West Coast trip and to come out of that thing alive. There was a lot of talk about that heading in. It was kind of oddly unique that Duke and Carolina are both going out there and flipping this thing. Not quite the same results, though. Carolina goes out there and goes 0-2 in these games and gives up 95 to Stanford. Duke turns around and holds them to 50. I think Cal had 54 in the first half or something against them last night. 56 against Duke in that game. Fellas, Duke, Carolina, Carolina was getting a lot of chatter, a lot of buzz. I mean, from us as well. Like they looked pretty impressive. Caleb Wilson still looks really good, but defensively they have quite the issue here, fellas. So Jordan, for you, man, kind of here in the Tobacco Road, a little bit of a different experience. Where are you at in terms of kind of Duke, Carolina? How close or far are they apart now?
I mean, I would be panicking if I was a Carolina fan after going 0-2 on the West Coast. And it's been a trend that the guard play has been killing them in all their losses. SMU, Boobie Miller put Caleb Wilson in a blender twice and scored 90-plus points. And then against obviously Stanford against Cal, like they're giving open looks. And the problem is, first off, defensively is their talented players of Caleb Wilson and Seth Trimble are getting lost on the defense side of the ball when they should be the ones that are the tone setters, kind of like a Dame Sarr. Like Seth Trimble's athletic, he's a veteran, he's getting lost. And then Caleb Wilson's getting lost with his athleticism. On the offensive end, they have as my coworker Greg Waddell from Sleepers Media would say, they have an NIT backcourt and Final Four front court, or NCAA Tournament front court with Henry Vassar and Caleb Wilson. But their backcourt is NIT level, and you're seeing it with Kyan Evans. He has been in single digits for, I don't know, the last like 7 games or something, and they're just bad. And Luka Bogovac has not been good, and they're looking for answers in the backcourt offensively. And you add that to where they can't guard anybody. It doesn't look good for Hubert Davis right now for this season, to be honest.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just pulled up their stats since the new year, which it doesn't include the Florida State game. So it's really their worst stretch of games, right? Because at Florida State, they won that one fairly comfortably, and Florida State only had like 66 points, I think. But they are 293rd in defense over the last 4 games. So that's one of the worst defensive teams in the country. Now they're 4th in offense, but if you can't stop anybody, it makes it pretty hard to win. And, the big thing for them has been the 3-point shooting they're allowing. So I think opponents are averaging over this stretch 12 made threes per game at 45%.
Yeah.
So that's just nuts.
The last thing too is buddy of mine, Riley Davis, does good stuff with Sleepers as well. He put out a tweet. He's a UNC fan, that Hubert Davis is 17-35 now against Q1 opponents. 17-35. You're the head coach at UNC, a blue blood. That is baffling. That is crazy.
Ask your boy to dig into it a little more. How many of those 17 are away from Chapel Hill? That's what I'd be curious about.
I'm not sure, but when they had that good team a couple of years ago, I think like 10 of those Q1 wins came in that season. So like it's like you take away like that Cormac Ryan team where they swept Duke and stuff. Like you take away that team and you look at the 10 years, like, oh boy, like this is ugly.
So I've kept a little quiet about it just to not be labeled as a hater, but there's a lot of Carolina fans obviously around, and they got off to a great start, but I also thought a little bit of fool's gold. I mean, Hubert didn't schedule very, very tough like he did last year. Give him credit. Last year he had a tough non-conference schedule put in front of them. They didn't win any of them. I think they only had one Q1 win going into the tournament last year. They got 3 right now. The Kansas, I think they needed like a 60-something point second half to pull away from Kansas at home. The Ohio State game, I mean, Trimble really turned it over and just lucked into Vesar, rolls right into him. He dunks it. That's the game-winning play there. Kentucky, I mean, they beat a depleted Kentucky team that was down 3 starters and didn't score for like the last 11 minutes of the game, and I think they beat them by 2 or 3. And that's when Dixon kind of went off there at the end. To you guys' point about Evans, like it's just kind of baffling to me that in a make it break it season for Hubert that he went into the season with Seth Trimble and Kyatt Evans as his starting backcourt. Evans had a pretty good season at Colorado State, but that doesn't always translate, right? Yeah. And then obviously they got the kid from Virginia Tech, Jaden Young. I don't think he played a lot at Virginia Tech. I think he was going to go to High Point before he ended up coming to Carolina. The Powell kid from West Virginia was just kind of another guy. I think he's played pretty good for him, but they don't really give him a lot of minutes. I'm not really sure what Hubert does with his rotations, and I know that baffles a lot of Carolina fans, but I just don't know if there's an answer for him in the backcourt. I mean, their front court, like you guys point out, Vesar and Wilson they're incredible talents, but the backcourt leaves a lot to be desired.
Well, and you don't want to, not to dump on Hubert too much. We hope he kind of sticks around for a little while here, but it doesn't get much better when you look at what they lost. Like if you look around at what Cade Tyson is doing or what Elliot Cadeau is doing, it is
that's a great point, Smitty, because that's what I've said is like that's not good that Cade Tyson went from what he was at Belmont to unplayable DNP, healthy scratches for you, and he's averaging 20 points a game in Minnesota, and then even Vanderbilt's been a really good team. Tyler Nickel was on your team. He's shooting 50% from 3 on 8 3-pointers a game for Vandy. And they have Jalen Washington, who's a good piece for them, and they are doing big things in the SEC. And they came from UNC, and they were not a piece for you. So it's like the Elliot Cadeau was the problem last year. That's what the fan base was saying, and he's the point guard for one of the 2 best teams in the country right now. Like it's not a good narrative right now that's happening at UNC that you transfer out of there, you get better. That's not good.
I think a lot of the fans think that Hubert kind of picked Trimble over Cadeau. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I'm not an insider with those guys, but Cadeau had his downs, like bad body language at times, a lot of turnovers, but an incredible point guard, like see the floor point guard. Like he really sets guys up. Ian Jackson obviously had a lot of games last year where he scored 20 points in a row. He hasn't been great at St. John's, but he hasn't been terrible either. I think I saw a tweet that had all the players that left UNC. If you probably took all them and put them on a roster, I think they handled this UNC team.
Well, you have to call it what it is at a certain point, right? And the guy has an issue with culture. Like he doesn't know how to create the culture there of what he wants. And that's what it is, man. I mean, when Baycott was there, Baycott held it down because Baycott was your leader and like that's your culture guy and like that's your setter and like he held it down for you well enough. Since then it's been there.
Because even when RJ Davis was there without Baycott, that wasn't a great situation for them. So I don't know if I can blame Hubert Davis for Elliot Cadeau suddenly learning how to shoot threes, but apart from that, it's like, because that's been his real jump to my mind is like he can shoot now.
Yeah. You put him in better situations too, though, right? Put him in action.
That's true. Yeah. Maybe he's getting easier shots. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you don't. Every 3 that you take isn't just like 5 guys just literally staring at you and like, are you going to shoot this kid or not, like that helps. If you don't have to shoot it every time like that.
I think if you swapped Elliott for Evans on this team, like they would score more, but they're still going to have their defensive problems, right? Like
it's not like he was a great defender.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned, I mean, teams are basically just shooter rounds on them. I mean, 16 threes, 14 threes, like it's tough to overcome when a team hits 14 threes on you. I don't care what team it is. I mean, it's tough to pull those games out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some of that will probably regress to the mean for them a little bit. Like, just I've talked before about how like 3-point accuracy is a little bit out of the defense's control. So sometimes you just get lit up, but it is telling that it's happened 4 games in a row, 5 games in a row. But so clearly they have perimeter defensive problems. But I bet you there'll be a game coming up here where a team will just miss 12 wide open threes and they'll win.
I think they've had 3 of their worst Ken Pom defensive efforts of the Ken Pom era in the last 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah. With 54 in the first half versus Cal. We gave up 57 total in the game.
Total.
Yeah, I mean they've lost 3 of the last 4. It's not great over there. But to bring this is a Duke podcast, so to bring it back to us a little bit, fellas. I mean, we're sitting here 17-1, and like I mentioned on last week, it still feels like Duke has just somehow found themselves after this Texas Tech game, and maybe it was a little bit of what the Texas Tech game and what Michigan was doing and what some other teams were doing, but Duke kind of found themselves in this like fringe 2-seed territory where it was kind of like, oh, they're okay, but they're this like B-sided team. Duke is not that, y'all. Like, I don't know what people have been looking at, where you've been, whatever. Duke had a little blip. Things are back. Duke's back to 3rd on Ken Pom. The advanced numbers are looking great. The analytics are looking great again. I think the narrative was a bit overblown. You pan out, you're 17-1. More importantly, you're 6-1 in the ACC. You come back home, you have a week off. You get Wake Forest and Louisville at home. So those are 2 big-time games. I mean, Wake, so they're nationally mediocre, but they're always a little bit of a threat to you in conference. They play Duke well. Louisville has been a team that's on paper, they're great, but if you look at Pat Kelsey's resume against some of the better teams that he's played in his career, that is not a good resume to have. It's not a good record to have. And so, I don't know what your fear meter is on that, but Duke has a great opportunity here. I mean, you're 6-0 is already, you're starting in a great opportunity, but you have an even better one to really put separation. I mean, you could wrap the conference up in January almost if you take care of business here, fellas. So I guess as we pan out, we can talk a little bit about Wake here, but just going into this thing, how impressed are you for Duke to come off the Texas Tech game, turn things around, be 6-0 in conference? And does Duke kind of continue this thing out? Does Duke go 8-0 on this home stretch?
Well, to your point about us not getting really a lot of recognition, I mean, we lost to Texas Tech by 1 point, neutral court.
You boys have
yeah. And granted, we had every chance to win that game and should have won that game, and we didn't. So we lost the game, but it was 1 point, neutral court to a solid Texas Tech team. We also have the most quad 1 wins of any team in the nation, and maybe by 2 over anybody. I don't know what the results of this weekend have done to the quad 1 situation, but I know for a while, at least earlier this week, we had 2, sometimes 3, depending on how that was shaken out more than anybody. So I don't understand why Nebraska is being looked at as a possible 1 seed over us or something like that. Some of these.
That's comical to me, man.
Yeah.
That's comical. I mean, come on.
I think it was Mike DeCourcy's, so take that with a grain of salt.
I mean, they're 18-0. I get it. At a certain point, if you don't lose, then you're a 1 seed. Eventually, like if you don't lose, eventually you will be a 1 seed. But I mean, come on, man.
Shu, we are 8-1 in quad 1 right now, and we're number 2 in the net. So there you go.
Yeah.
For now, some of those teams could fall out. Teams could creep back in. But
yeah, and look, I think Duke is a 1 seed, and I said it on the recap of my Duke-Stanford game that Duke is somehow under the radar again. Like, it's just the loss against Texas Tech, and then people are writing off Duke, which I understand they're writing off Duke in the fact that Duke beat Louisville without Mikael Brown. They're like, well, Boopie Miller didn't play for SMU, and Darren Peterson didn't play for Kansas. Valid. You can make that argument, like, for conversation, but then day 17-1, and Duke did beat Florida, who's one of the best teams in college basketball right now since January 1st. They have been unbelievable, and they have that win. And then the Arkansas win. Arkansas's backcourt is unbelievable. I love Darius Acuff. So, like, there's other big wins that Duke's had, and I do like Duke's chances to continue that this week as well.
Yeah, at Michigan State, you didn't even mention. That's a
Michigan State.
That's another big one too. I think part of it, as I've alluded to it, talked about it a little bit. Like, I think part of it, and I think it's from the fans, but I think a little bit of it is nationally is they look at that team last year and it's like, oh, you had all this length. You had 2 top 4 picks. You have 2 basically NBA rookies of the year right now, for being honest. And you lost the game, and it's like, oh, okay, so you have to like overcome that or like make up for that in some way. And like, that's just not how college basketball works, right? Like, where was Houston's insane length and 2 top 5 picks where they were able to beat? They didn't have it. You know, they just didn't have it. And I think this team is somehow like falling prey to that a little bit. They have to be so flawless and so perfect to how can Jon possibly get it? And this team just can't make up for that. They just, like I told you last week, it's like, and even if they win it all, it doesn't make up for last year. I'll be sitting here and a part of me would be like, damn, we could have went back to back. We could have went back to back, man. We could have done it. We should have done it. Like, that's just how good last year was. And this, how different this team is, that like, they're just not going to be able to make up for that. But I think there's a look, I mean, 17-1, man, is 17-1. Like,
yeah,
there's part of the national media seems to like, be like, okay, Scheyer, you have to prove it to us, right? Like, yeah, you got to the Final Four, but you had one of the best teams we've ever seen on paper statistically, and you didn't get it done. Well, now you got to get it done, right? Which is kind of nonsensical, because like 99 Duke didn't win, and they were certainly better than like 2010 Duke, right? So you don't have to have the best team in college basketball to win, right? Like, and just because you have the best team doesn't mean you win, because there's this, just basically, it's a single elimination situation. So I don't know. We lost Jordan here. So
yeah, well, yeah,
that's why I'm kind of stuttering over my words.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I mean, and part of it too is that, like, the narrative is always, well, Jon couldn't win with 2 top 5 picks, or like the bestest team of all time. Well, okay, but Jon is also part of the reason why it's the best Duke team of the last 20. Like, he's the one that's installing this stuff. Like, he's the one setting this stuff up, building the roster, setting the, putting everything in motion here. So he's got to get a little bit of credit for that then, right? Like, it's okay. Well, if he can't win with like one of the best Duke teams you've seen the last 25 years, but yeah, he's partly responsible for one of the best Duke teams the last 25 years. So,
I mean, 91 UNLV didn't win. 99 Duke didn't win. 2015 Kentucky didn't win. There's plenty of examples of teams that just been juggernauts throughout the regular season, and a bad bounce, a bad call, some missed free throws. But whatever it is, it's easy to go down in March or April, and that's it for you.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan just had his laptop randomly reset, so he's going to try to pop back in here. We'll see. I know we're kind of closing up, though, a little bit. Fellas, one thing that's kind of cool is all 3 of us will be at the Wake game, so I didn't know if we wanted to do more of a formal preview later in the week here. We have a week off, but we could talk about it a little bit as we head into it. Wake hasn't been that great. They're 11-7. They've lost, 4 out of the last 6 that they played. But again, you look at it and it's like, ooh, they lost to 1. Michigan beat them by 1 in OT in a game that Wake probably could have won. Texas Tech beats them by 1 on a neutral. Vandy kind of got to them a little bit. Vandy beat them by about 21. They lose to State. Miami gets them by 4. Miami's been solid. They had a good shot at beating Carolina and Chapel Hill the other night as well. Lose by 3 there. I don't know, man. I'm not going to say Duke loses, but a part of me thinks that this is set up to be much closer than it probably should be, or that you think that it would be based on how it looks. I don't know. Where are y'all at with that coming into this thing? After we just talked about how good Duke has looked. I mean, this feels a bit semi-trappish to me, or like like you could find yourself in like a 1-possession game much later than you would like to be in a 1-possession game.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's about controlling Juke Harris and Calmese. Like, you can't let them two just get going on the heater, obviously. They brought – I think Carolina was pretty much kind of controlling that game when they played them, and those guys just kind of wheeled them back into it there at the end and just came up a little bit short. Forbes has always had really good guards since he's been at Wake Forest. However he does it, he gets guys that, are just bucket getters. So that worries me a little bit, but our defense is starting to come around, and hopefully Dame takes whichever, assignment he gets to heart, and we do our thing.
Yeah, I guess the difference between Calmese and like some of the other guards that Forbes has had is, those other guards have been a little bit higher volume. Calmese is only averaging 11 points per game. So, when he drops like whatever he dropped on UNC, that was a little bit out of the ordinary. Whereas, the last couple guards Forbes has had, they were averaging like 20 a game and were some of the best guards in the nation. So it looks like Calmese just had some late game heroics versus FSU. I did not see that game, but they squeaked that one out. I don't know if you saw that one, Jordan, but
I'm glad. First off, I'm glad to be back. I don't know what just happened.
Yeah.
My whole laptop just like restarted during this first timer for me, especially going live on this. So fantastic. But I've seen Calmese shoot the craziest shots that imaginable, and they go in, or they have gone in. And the Wake game, he had a couple, or the Florida State game, he had a couple of those. And if this was Duke, I'm gonna knock on wood, but like if this is Duke from the previous month, where it's just like, of course this is going in. Like, guys hitting a tough step back against Duke. I mean, we saw Florida State, right? They were shooting like 31% from three on the year, and they shot 47%. Hit it. I think it was a season high of 14 threes against Duke. And then Ali Khalifa, right? I mean, 5 for 5 for 3, 23% 3-point shooter. By the way, Scheyer should feel vindicated in the Stanford game from that, because they did the same exact defense against them, and Cameron Grant was 1 of 7 from 3. So similar philosophy. But to get back to Calmese, he's a guy that shoots difficult shots, and sometimes they go in, and when they do, Wake Forest can stay in a game. And so Duke has to be, on their toes and kind of try and eliminate him early as well.
Yeah, I mean, they have, like, you're right. Forbes has typically had that, like, it was Hunter Salas, it was Tyree Appleby, it was the Williams
kid,
Alondis
Williams before that. Where he just like unleashes this portal guard and just lets them wreak havoc. And it's been tough for us, historically. I mean, they have played us very physical. Last year was very nice to see that us kind of just be like, nah, bro, like we ain't the one. Like we're not.
But even in the road, matchup versus them, that was
the road one was tough, man. It's always been that way. It's always been a grindy type of game. They do have several new faces though, so it might look a bit different. I would expect them to try to still play the same way. They're going to muck it up. They're going to try to muck it up.
How do we guard Juke Harris? Like, what's the situation for that? Who's going to be on him, and what's the way to stop him? Jordan, do you have any thoughts on that?
It's got to be Dame. Dame Sarr.
It's got to be Dame, yeah.
It is Dame Sarr. Look, Dame Sarr has given up 67 points this year on 104 possessions. That's 0.644 points per possession. Guys are shooting 32% when guarded by him, 25 of 79, and a turnover rate of 20.2%. This is all via synergy. So a fifth of the time they're turning the ball over, and then they're shooting 32% against him.
That'll do.
He's just a menace, dude, and that'll do. And so it's going to be, hey, you eliminate Juke Harris, and then you do enough. It cracks me up because Dame will go 17 minutes in the first half and like 5 in the second, because you alluded to it. He kind of does a couple bad plays in the second half, gets a short leash, but he did play 28 minutes last game against Stanford, which is second most since the Texas game. So you know what? If he can give Duke 17 minutes in the first half or 16 and then 12 in the second, that's great basketball out of Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And we really don't need him to score. Like, we don't need him to give us 15 points. You give us a couple threes, a couple, a basket here, there, 6-8 points, typical night. Cam Boozer and Isaiah are doing most of the heavy lifting. just, little supplemental scoring for us.
I mean, the Stanford game is the perfect, like, ideal version of him, right? You give us like one crazy electric dunk off a closeout off an offensive rebound, and you lock down their best player. We'll call it a day. Any corner wing three you make, we'll call that. That's just bonus at this point, right? If you're giving us that level of defense. Yeah, and to me, yeah, I mean, it's Dame, and it's just Dame in terms of like who's can lock up Juke Harris. I think Nick's gonna play a little bit, right? So he's gonna get in there a little bit. You might see Caleb switched out there. You might see Malik on him a little bit and some kind of inverted stuff. Yeah, I think the real question for me is going to be a little bit of like, well, how do you mitigate, or like, what does the Caden thing look like? Because that's where, from game to game, it's like, okay, is this going to be the 28 for Caleb and the 12 for Caden, or the 28 for Caden and the 15 for Caleb? Like, because it's just been a little bit of that. Wake does have a little bit of like perimeter size. Like some of their guards and wings are bulkier size-ish. That'll be interesting to see of what that looks like. It tends to be that we've started with Caden. In like first half, he might get 10, 12, 14, but he might only finish with 15 or 17 minutes sometimes. And so that's been interesting too. You mentioned Dame, but Caden has been kind of the culprit of the halftime variability as well, if you will. So,
and that's what I was going to bring up, is that, it's a little bit different matchup in the sense that Stanford really didn't have that size, and asking Dame to guard a 6'7" guy is a little bit different than asking him to smother a 6'2" guy, right? Like he did with Ames, or like he did with, in the Stanford game as well. So I just wonder, is Juke Harris like strong at all? Would you describe him as like, I just wonder if his strength could overpower Dame a little bit there.
They kind of are similar build. He's 6'7", 200, and Dame's probably about the same. Like,
yeah,
Dame's listed like 6'9", but I really think Dame's like 6'8". No offense, Dame, but I don't think he's on the smaller side of 6'9". And I think they have a similar frame. But I make this joke. I've made this joke, but I'm also serious. As Dame's coming from, I always thought that his offense would be more comfortable coming to college than overseas. But his defense, it's like, dude, I guarded Jabari Parker when I was 17 years old. Like, I've guarded other former NBA players that were on my team at FC Barcelona every practice. So give me Juke Harris, give me Ryan Conwell, give me whoever, because I've been playing Jabari Parker was the #1 pick. He was my teammate, and I had to guard him, or first round pick in lottery. So it's just very funny that he has that demeanor when he guards. Like, dude, this is almost easy to me because of where I just came from at FC Barcelona.
Yeah, and he gets off on it too, which I love. Like when him and Malik have been out there together, and we've done that a lot lately. Like it's Nightmare City, man. It is Nightmare City. Like for every DHO, like Malik is just sitting there waiting for you to bring it down, or waiting for you to try to do a rip through, and he's coming. Like Dame, like when they're doing those hedges.
Yeah,
like
that
Dame will walk you.
That trap with both of them is.
He'll walk you all the way to half court. Like I'll walk you all the way, bro. Like I'll go all the way with you if you want to go out there, like, and come back too.
Yeah.
Like, that is, it's impressive, man. Like that he's just doubled down and committed to doing that. His defense, his team defense too. Like it's not like he all of a sudden just became like this kind of defender. Like he's just been a good defender always, but the team concepts have been like really impressive lately. Like he's really he's rotating back. He's covering down on that baseline. He's covering down, dumping down at the rim. He's digging down when he needs to. Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there, man. It's getting there. We saw it last year too, where John just slowly started to kind of build a juggernaut. This team is going to look a little bit differently. You're not going to beat every team by 30. But what I did see, my biggest takeaway from this West Coast is, I don't want to compare it to last year every time, but they're starting to do some of those nuts and bolts things enough consistently that just wears those teams down. Because that's what last year did. They just did these, like what we did really well. We're just going to do that very, very consistently over time, and across 40, you're just getting crushed. Like we saw some teams hang with us for 18 minutes, for 28 minutes, but across 40, they were just getting crushed. I don't think that the ceiling differential is quite there for this because the conference is way better. So you're playing better teams, but we're starting to see that pattern unlock of like, hey, we're going to do these, like our principles, our identity, our little nuts and bolts, our in the weeds things where we're going to kill you and just eat. we're starting to do that consistently. And if that happens, I mean, if John gets Cam Boozer and Isaiah Evans to turn into elite two-way guys, it's over. Like, it's over. Like, if they're elite two-way guys, it's over, man. Like, no shot, because the offensive production they can provide is just speaks for itself. But if they're really elite two-way guys too, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, it's hard to beat. And the thing with this Duke team too is Scheyer, like, he wants to be so good at defense too. Like, the thing that Duke has done so well this year is, and what they did last year. I know you don't want to compare the two, but they had ugly wins last year, which is, rock fights is what I mean. And they had a rock fight against Florida at home. And that Florida, like I said, that Florida win is aging beautifully. They won 67-66. They won at Michigan State, 66-60. Like, they can beat you in the 60s. They can beat you in the high 80s or low 90s. So it's like, this team being able to beat you in a rock fight and beat you in a track meet, that's good, because it shows that they can beat you at their C game or their A game and vice versa for yours. And that is what I enjoy about last year's team. What I'm enjoying about this year's team is, Florida State couldn't miss, but you know what? Duke scored 91. They scored 87, which was awesome for them, but Duke scored 91. And then the Michigan State game, they scored 61 because we scored 66 or whatever it was. So that's what I've enjoyed the most watching this team.
Yeah, and the versatility is big for March. I mean, you never know what team you pull up against in March. You might have to play it slow. You might want to play it, a boat race. So it's nice to be able to play it anyway.
Yeah, John talked about that over the summer a lot. He's been asked about the schedule, and it always comes back to that of you need to be prepared for any type of style, any type of pace, any type of physicality that you're going to see in a 6-game elimination tournament if you want to win the whole thing. You just have to, especially now, because we are in the age, fellas, of I think we're entering what might be one of the hardest eras to win a title, because you're seeing from the portal, from recruiting, roster construction is able to be set up at such a level that no other coach has really been able to do with the growth of analytics and what we know about how to run good stuff. I mean, you're seeing Dusty May, you're seeing Jon Scheyer, you're seeing Hurley, like you're seeing these guys really tap in at a level that the sport hasn't quite seen yet. So it wouldn't surprise me for the next several Final Fours to be chock full of chalk, man, to be not all 4 1 seeds, but like 2-3 of them to be there every year, just because of they're able to design and build stuff that
and like we've talked about the mid-majors getting pushed out kind of, and just not
the best player gets pulled and gets yanked to it for a title contender now, right? Like, it's just a different sport. So yeah, we shouldn't take this for granted what John's doing.
You might not get to play St. Peter's in the Elite Eight, for example.
Yeah, you're probably not. And you're probably not getting Butler for a title game anymore either, right? Like, that's just probably not happening, man. It's just wild right now, and we'll see. Maybe it'll correct itself at a certain point, but it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to get this thing done, man. But all right, fellas, I know we've talked for a little while here. We went around. I know most of us will be at the weight game, so we're hoping for good stuff to happen there. Need to get that one done. But in the meantime, we appreciate you all. So please rate, review, subscribe. You can email us at TheDevilsDen.com. You can find us on X/Twitter at DevilsDenPod247. But really, right quick, sorry I should have this on the front end. Jordan, please plug what you got going on, man. I know you just dropped a video on Stanford about talking about defense. So they've got about 30 minutes of that if y'all want to go check that out. But tell the people where they can find you, all the content, what you got going.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at JMan's Takes. The podcast is Big J Little J Show. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, on YouTube channel, which is at JMan with _2 N's. And then I do college basketball content daily with Sleepers Media. We cover all college basketball. And so when I do a UNC preview and recap, I need Duke fans in the comments, because UNC fans are not very nice to me because they know I'm a Duke fan. So I appreciate the assistance in the comments section, and I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always a blast to come on here.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you, and keep the faces strong in the verb high. Go Duke.